Dr. Shawn Baker, you're an orthopedic surgeon, a best-selling author of the book, The Carnivore Diet, which is perhaps the most controversial yet most influential book on diet and health. Also in your 50s, you became a multiple indoor rowing world record holder. But perhaps your greatest achievement is being called out by a pro plant-based diet lobby called Changing Markets Foundations. They recently identified you as being the world's #1 misinfluencer when it comes to food, diet, and health. Your name pops up 20 times in a 58-page document. So clearly they're obsessed with you, and obviously you have fans on the inside. How does it feel to have this feather in your cap?
Yeah, it's a bit of a dubious honor, isn't it? Yeah, I think, obviously we live in a time where dissent is sort of maybe not allowed. We went through that several years ago. And I mean, when you look at the diet that they are promoting, it is a diet which, I mean, it seems like it's been written by the processed food companies. I mean, it basically, when you look at the food that they are, sort of allowing you to eat, most of it coming, the significant majority of it coming from grains, plant oils, and sugar. I mean, that's just an ultra processed diet for the most part. And then, only allowing, mind you, you can have up to a third of an egg a day. You can have 15 grams of any type of meat, any type of pork, beef, or lamb a day. I mean, these are you're talking, less than an ounce, half an ounce, or something like that. So, I mean, it's obviously not a recipe for human thriving, and it's maybe, and it's not too dissimilar to where we're already at, except a little bit more magnified. And so, if you look at the problems we have with society, with population health, with chronic disease, this, in my view, will only exacerbate that and speed that up. And it's not too dissimilar to the diet of, say, a country like India or Bangladesh already consumes, and we know that country is full of, has the highest number of diabetics in the world, the highest number of people with heart disease in the world. They have a stunted population. And a lot of people say, well, some of that has to do with poverty. But that's exactly the point. This is a diet of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
This is a peasant diet that they want to feed you. And I think by calling that out, as I did last time when they tried to roll this nonsense out, I think back in 2019, and it was largely rejected. And remember, these are corporations that are capitalized into the even trillions of dollars. Most of the major drug manufacturing companies, the pharmaceutical industry, a lot of the big petrochemical companies behind this, either in one form or the other, either direct or indirect support. You've got the World Economic Forum behind this. You've got just the Rockefeller Foundations, all these companies that basically sort of view us as cattle are saying, well, this is your cattle food, eat up and enjoy, while we reap profits and continue to eat as we wish to. So I think it needs to be called out. And certainly I wasn't the only one on the list, but yeah, I was at the top of the list. Probably it is based on probably size of platform back then. At this point, no doubt, that list could include tens of thousands of people, because this message has resonated with people that get it. I think they're going to have a very difficult time. However, and they've stated this in their manifesto, is that they will try and convince people, using quote unquote scientific arguments and discussions to change their diet. But if that doesn't happen, they will force the needle. They will force the issue by regulation, taxes, perhaps rationing. Or what they're doing and what is being done right now is they will force these people that produce this food out of business. They'll put cattle ranchers out of business. They will make it impossible for them to continue to produce the food that we would want them to. In fact, and many people don't know that in the United States, and I'm sure Canada is not too much different. You being in Canada, United States, since about 1970, we have lost 600,000 individual, ranchers, 600,000.
That's wild.
That's amazing. That's wild. We lose something like 20,000 ranches every year here in the United States. That is not sustainable. The average rancher in the United States is like 62 years of age. They are aging out and they're not being replaced. And so that has to change. We have to support these guys. We have to do something drastic, whether it's through legislation or, market shifting. And ultimately, I know there's a lot of push here in the United States for make America healthy again and all that stuff. And you can see how that's kind of being bogged down in this quagmire of bureaucracy and legal challenges and corporate influence. And it's just I don't know what they're going to be able to accomplish. I hope they're able to accomplish quite a bit, but I think, They probably will make some small symbolic changes, which probably, once a new administration comes in, will be walked back. So it's up to us as people, as individuals, to stop supporting these companies that are literally poisoning us. Every time you give them $1, that's more control they have over you. So we've got to just change the market ourselves.
What's wild to me is the Maha movement. It's such a simple and beautiful concept. How can anything like that have any objection to it? You're just trying to make people healthy, with very simple alternatives and changes. And when I was reading the report, because you mentioned dissent, what stuck out to me as wild is like the level of want of control in these non-governmental organizations and the white papers they put out. It's always about control. And in fact, the one that we're referencing here from the Changing Markets, they lament the fact that there is less control on speech online now because of X. And they credit that as being one of the reasons that their movement is not, progressing any further than it is, and that you're winning essentially. That's remarkable. And what's also interesting is the irony lost on them? This is a plant-based food lobby accusing you of working for another lobby. I mean, the irony there is remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, they are saying that we are all in this sort of cabal of people aligned with the meat industry that are paying us to coordinate this message. When the reality is, I've not received a dime. I mean, I think the meat industry should pay me as much work as I've done for them, but I have never received a single penny of money from this meat industry, supposedly, and to my knowledge, none of the other guys have as well, as they've all mostly stated that. Whereas the people on the other side, this plant cabal, again, they are getting all kinds of funding from pharmaceutical companies, big food companies. It's complete irony, it's complete hypocrisy, and it's a flat out lie. And some people have suggested we take legal action against this sort of this vicious slander.
Speaking of which, I know these people are litigious, so I'm going to be careful with my words. But if you take, for example, the Eat Lancet report that just came out, and you take those authors, pop them into your favorite LLM, and ask if there are any conflicts of interest, just see what happens. Yeah. See what comes up.
Yeah, I mean, not just financial conflicts. Some of the ethical conflicts of interest. I think that's valid. I mean, if I start producing scientific literature that says meat is good, people would call me out because I'm a guy that writes a carnivore diet. I eat meat, I promote it, and I think this is a fair criticism. I mean, it may not necessarily besmirch the science completely, but I mean, it should be made known. It's the same thing that happened when the World Health Organization declared meat was a class 2 carcinogen. A high percentage of the people that work in and around that study were ethical vegans, vegetarians, Seventh-day Adventists. That was completely covered up. No one mentioned that. It was considered a non-issue. That doesn't matter. And it truly does. It really does. Because people, I mean, the reality is, and I've said this over and over, and when it comes to nutrition science, particularly when we talk about aging, longevity, whether or not we're going to get some chronic disease, the science is woefully inadequate. And just by definition, because it's it's literally impossible to do good studies on human beings over a long period of time, controlling every aspect of the diet to the point where you can make conclusive decisions. It's not like an animal study, like a rat that lives 2 years and you can monitor everything you feed them and then kill it at the end and dissect it and see what happens. So we have a woefully imperfect science that is inadequate to answer the questions that we are trying to answer. And so using that, because you can find data to support any hypothesis in that scenario, because it's just, how do you collect the data? How do you design the study? How hard do you look at things? It's literally a joke, but that's what we're up against.
I can tell you from being in the research world for many, many years, that is a fact. Whether it's wet in the lab, you can tweak things here and there. And then when you're publishing and writing, you can find exactly references to support any argument. We used to call it reference fishing back in the day. So what do you think is ultimately at the heart of this attack from these two groups?
Well, I think two things. One, I think there's a huge financial motivation. Every human on planet Earth has to eat, and somebody gets paid for those people eating it. And if you own one of these large multinational corporations that, regularly, gross profits of hundreds of billions of dollars every year, then that is your motivation. I think that's motivation enough for most, but I mean, I do think there's some people that have, biases, beliefs. Some people may be, I hate to sort of say these are James Bond villain people back there cackling, I'm going to make the world suffer and be my slaves. I don't know how much that's going on, but I do think it's just a lot about profit mostly. I don't think it's this desire to be altruistic where I'm going to save the world and save the cows. And, we're going to stop those oceans from boiling by making the cows stop farting and stuff like that, which I think is, and again, when we go into this climate modeling data, it's just as bad. It's probably worse in nutrition science, because then it's like, I don't think any climate model has ever been shown to be right. From my understanding, I'm not the expert in this, but it's just, again, we're using all this speculative data at best to make policies that could greatly negatively impact, billions of people. And it's something we shouldn't just take lightly.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on climate either, but what's always struck me is the hubris in the thought that we as a human species could affect the biggest buffering system that could possibly exist in our universe, which is the planet Earth, and to think that we can skew it one way or another so easily. That's hubris filled, I think, from my opinion.